Hi, I'm Misty Burke.
Hi, I'm Andrew Dome.
I'm Lance Hulse.
Hi, I'm Lisa Lawhorn.
And in reviewing the video regarding the ACEs study, it was found by Kaiser Permanente. It was done strictly in the San Diego area and was not necessarily representative of the large population, although we did find some initial information about how trauma affects people, and that a larger study was done by the American Medical Association that found that 25% of people have three or more ACEs, and that has a profound effect on our health. Part of that includes affecting brain development, the immune system, hormone glands, and that with an ACE score of 4 or more, it can increase by 2 times your effect of having COPD or hepatitis, 4 times more likely to suffer from depression, and 12 times as likely to be impacted by suicide. In addition to that, it affects chronic health disease, including lung cancer and heart disease, and impacts the life expectancy by 20 years. With these types of health concerns, we see a great impact on our kids, both short-term and long-term. And one of those effects includes toxic stress, which Andrew will talk about.
All right. Well, with toxic stressors, it's a big part of kids growing up in the high school these days for me. And I know with some of the other teachers we've talked about, it has been a big issue. Some of the things that are happening is parents that are having some trouble at home, whether it be drinking or physical abuse or mental illness, are causing effects on these kids that are struggling to help their hormones develop properly like they should at this age. As these stressors continue to build up, kids start to shut down in the classroom. You start to see these effects start to happen. So when we have talked about toxic stressors, a quote from the video that I thought was important was, early adversity dramatically affects health across a lifetime. And what they're seeing is they're seeing these stressors going out to a larger population nowadays, and also it's carrying on longer in life. So for us to try to be teachers and help these kids, we need to start seeing some of these signals, seeing some of these stressors, and try to find a way to help them as best we can. Sometimes it can be difficult to get through to some of these kids, especially ones that are struggling with so many mental issues. But there's always a way that we can maybe try to find a common ground to help each and every kid that's struggling with these mental illnesses that could be caused at home with parents, or even at school with bully situations and things of that nature. So I'll move it on to Lisa or Lance.
So to expand more on kind of the stressors, I'll talk about the 6 different kinds of adversity that I found, which are physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. So first we have physical, and we all kind of know a little bit about that. It could be anywhere from having a physical disability to where it hinders kids from completing simple tasks, or maybe even higher up tasks, but it creates problems for them and in their learning environment, depending on the different types of stuff we do in our schoolwork. It can also be an appearance thing, with like obesity, being bigger than other people, or being too skinny, malnourishment, stuff like that. Not looking the same as other students can be another physical disability. A lot of these kids are just wanting to be normal, so it makes it harder for them to accept the fact that they have that disability. And I think as teachers, we need to really hone in and help them accept what they have and help them learn how to progress from that. Then we have the mental side, which can be just as detrimental as the physical, because you can also have the mental disabilities that hinders their brain to connect different issues with things, or even make small connections between their physical to paper, stuff like that, or just doing like a group project, being able to connect with people. this can also happen with like traumatic events in their life. Something happens, like a death of a loved one, sorry, that can hinder their output in the classroom because all their mind is focused on that traumatic event. And so we have to be compassionate as teachers and help bring the student back to the classroom, help them get the help they need, whether it's mental disability or a traumatic event in their life. And then we can go into further and go emotional too, which is the third type. That can be anywhere from having like an abusive home or a lot of neglect in their family, community, or friends. A lot of that stuff can play a huge part in a kid's psychological and emotional state. They could be very unforgiving, have a lot of rage, or they can just be depressed, have anxiety, and just shut everyone else out. They could be feeling inadequate or not good enough. So as teachers, we need to, again, give them the help that they need, let them know that everything's all right, and try to get them to be more comfortable of where they're at. Maybe whether it's community at home, give them a safe and secure place to get that emotional feeling back for them, draw them back in with us. Then we have the social aspect. That's maybe having like little or no interactions with people. They're not very good with interaction. So they're very shy and timid. They don't want to speak up in the class or share thoughts. So we have to try to draw them in, again, little by little, so that they feel more confident in doing that, building that social network up. And again, some kids are so afraid to talk that, especially coming to a bigger new school, they don't have the friends or the social networking, and that brings things down as well. Them being afraid just to interact with the kids around their school, you'll see that in different groups and areas, and then it'll start going into the classroom, and you'll start noticing that more. So we need to help get them be less afraid of connecting and sharing, and let them know that we're just here, we're just the same as them, and give them that connection between teacher and student to where it becomes easier with us, and hopefully we can transfer that over to student interaction as well. The fifth one that I have is spiritual. This was talking about needing a higher power or faith. I mean, it doesn't have to be religious at all. It just needs to be something that they believe in, something that they're willing to shoot for to give them purpose. Being here at a Catholic school, that's not really as hard, but I can see that being in other schools that are bigger and have different religions within the school and whatnot. And there might be some kids that don't even go to church. So some of those people are the kids that we'll have to pick up on and help. And then the last one I want to talk about is financial. Financially, a student could have a very poor home life and doesn't meet the needs as many as others. So like they'd be wearing the same clothes more often, or even clothes with holes in them because their family can't afford new clothes. Maybe the student doesn't shower so often and stuff like that. So they kind of have a smell or a stink to them, which other kids don't want to be around, or that it already hinders them from that poor financial aspect. And we need to make sure that we can help them at all. And if them or their parents need help, we need to seek out and help them whenever we can. So those are just the 6 that I want to hit on. And Lisa will talk more about how we can help with those situations.
So now that we've outlined the risk and we've discussed toxic stress and adversity factors, what we want to do is we want to look into clinical solutions, addressing public health problems. Kind of going back to what Lance said, we want to interrupt the progression from early adversity to disease and early death. So with scientific advances, we are better able to diagnose these problems. But unfortunately, like Lance also said, there's also economic realities to this as well. So even though we have technologically advanced to be able to do it, some families cannot afford this. So that's still a struggle that we're still dealing with. But our goal is to recognize behavioral symptoms as well. As educators, we want to be able to do trauma-enforced educational practices. They do offer clinical training programs where you can actually get these training. And as educators, we want to adapt content and course instruction to minimize the potential for student re-traumatization and maximize student emotional safety. We want to be able to create safe and respectful classroom environments. And I think that's all in all, after analyzing, these three different very key factors, that's where we really have to come to, is finding solutions for these students, for them to be able to blossom in the classroom and be able to cope with these beneficially, so that they will be able to become productive members of society. And that's the real goal. That's what I have over that. Do you guys want to do a reflection over everything that we've discussed about the topic?
I think one of the things that stands out to me is that 1 in 4 of our kids are experiencing some form of trauma to the point of it affecting their ability to learn. Some of the strategies used at my school include creating safe spaces, so that about every 4 classrooms has an area where students can go and learn in a safe environment, or just have safe space away, because school may be the safest place for them. We've also created student of concerns, where every 2 weeks we meet to go over any new updates that may help us be better understanding and more compassionate to what's going on in a student's life, whether it was they had law enforcement at their house, they have a parent with a chronic health issue, or they have ongoing absences that we're looking into how we can help them, whether it's getting to school or what else is going on in the home. And then lastly, having handle with care. So students who are experiencing maybe a mental health concern have the opportunity to have either extended time for assignments, or can be more acknowledging of stresses that may be going on, like the toxic stress that Andrew described, that may be affecting their ability to learn in class.
And we're seeing more and more students in the classroom like having these issues, and like you said, 1 in 4. I'm at an inner city school in Wichita, at West High School, and we have several kids that are coming to school, like we've talked about, in the same clothes. They're living out of hotels and bathrooms, and they're not in a safe environment, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from, or maybe when it will be, and they don't know. Sometimes they'll come to school and say, yeah, I haven't seen my dad in 5 days, or there hasn't been a parent home for 5 or 6 days. And that's just something that these kids are having to live on their own at 14 and come to school and be successful. And that puts a lot of stress on these kids. And it's something that I grew up not having to deal with. And I know a lot of the educators weren't going through these same situations. So we really have to adapt as teachers to try and help these kids.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on what you talked about, Andrew, and something that Lance mentioned earlier. One of the things that I've noticed for some of our students is, like you said, they'll come to school wearing the same clothes, or they're dealing with hygiene issues, things like that. And what we like to do, that I've observed in our schools, we'll do a health and wellness check. So if we observe a kid who's going through these types of situations or issues in the classroom without drawing attention to the student, because the last thing we want to do is to be able to we don't want to put them on the spot or make them feel any kind of way of what they're going through. So what we'll do is we'll do a health and wellness check, where basically we'll have them sent to the nurse, and the nurse can kind of help us handle it without trying to upset the student or anything like that. The school that I teach at is also a very low income town as well, so we have a lot of students who we really don't even like to close school for when we have snow blizzards, just because some of those kids don't know when they're going to be able to eat again, because they're going through that kind of situation at home. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that we do have those health and wellness checks. And even when we get out on holidays for Thanksgiving, there will be some people who will keep the school open for 1 or 2 days just so those kids can have a meal that week. so they don't go without eating. And that's one of the things that my school implemented. So I just wanted to discuss that as well.
Within my community and school, we're very small. We're only a base of 200 people here. So the high school's 20 and the grade school's like a total of 33. So seeing a lot of the adversity and stuff that we've been talking about, we didn't really see much until about last semester before this, the end of this year. We saw a family come in who had changed schools about 4 times within the last 2 years. And that kind of set back the students on where their mental capabilities were, where they were in school. And we found out that their financial status wasn't very good either within the home life. So we don't really have a set program to help them, but with our community and Catholic faith, the church came out and helped them financially, just putting the kids through school. They kind of like waived the financial aspect so the kids could have a good education. And we're doing all in our power here as staff to help them one-on-one more as to what they need to get done, and trying to be more cooperative with them so they can catch up where they need to be. And again, same with you guys, they're wearing the same clothes or holy clothes. Well, us teachers have taken it upon ourselves to just buy some essential stuff for them, maybe buy an extra pair of clothes or a pair of gym clothes because they didn't have anything but jeans. And then some basic like products like deodorant for the boys that are coming to the school, because we're not even sure if they have showers or if they shower very often because of their financial system. So those are the kind of things that we're dealing with, and we're trying to get better at finding a way to help more kids like them or in different situations if that arises.
So, I mean, it's not just big school or small school. It's happening everywhere. I mean, it's kind of easy to tell, like, where it's not just this is a super nice school. Even if it's a super nice high level income school, there's always a kid that's probably still struggling. And it could be just a fight at home even. It's not even the low income kids sometimes that are struggling with some of these stressors. So there's just so many different ways that it can affect kids. And with in the video, they kind of talked about how the different stressors were making these kids grow up faster because they're not feeling pain as much anymore, because they're seeing all these traumas at home every night. When something serious comes up, they're kind of just blank faced about it, which shouldn't be that way.
I wanted to add too as well. So the school that I teach at is focused around Fort Riley Army base. So with our kids, we have a lot of kids who are moving constantly. They have been to more schools than they know, and constantly having to reintegrate to a new culture and having to make new friends. They're also dealing with family, or a parent being deployed for so many months or for so many years, and they're having to deal with that as well. And I feel like that's something that might be, I don't want to say ignored, but it's something that I think that might get overlooked if you're not right there in the center of it. Before my husband joined the Army, I never really understood what really had to deal with that, because the school that I taught at, we weren't really around an Army base, and so there wasn't a lot of that diversity going on where we had a high student turnover rate like we do here. And so I mean, like I said, I don't think it's something that's ignored, but I think it's something that might be overlooked, that I think that should be taken into consideration as well. So maybe some social toxic stress is having an effect on kids as well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that kind of touched base on everything. You guys have anything, I guess, else to add? All good?